Hi. My story starts with a donut. Oh, a really rubbish donut. A donut horribilis, if you will. Actually, technically, it begins about 4 decades before this donut, but I've got 12 minutes up here and a lot to say, so how about we just start 6 years ago? Here I am, Claire, about to enjoy some alfresco eats with my 2 favourite lunch buds. I'm staring wistfully off camera, about to drop the dog and the baby, but don't worry, I've got a firm grip on my phone. 62 likes and counting, all watching me nail self-care, childcare, and pet care like a boss. Here I am, again, with my husband this time, in a jumpsuit and heels and 6 months pregnant, as the host of his fabulous 40th karaoke party, where I am first on the mic, last off the dance floor, because I am all about the parties, I'm all about the music, I'm all about the dancing, I am all about the really bright lights, and I am all about making small talk. I'm all about my career and my 3 children, and sorry, did I mention I was absolutely nailing it? Good. So you can see then why it came as a little bit of a shock when on my 40th birthday in 2018, I came downstairs. I chose a chocolate ice ring off the box on the kitchen counter. I then proceeded to walk past the balloons and my children singing happy birthday out into the garden where for the next 4 hours I stared and cried at what has now become known as the world's most depressing donut. No wistful staring this time, instead paralysis and panicking, because this donut, this represented the beginning of my mental health breakdown and the end of a month that has seen me cancel my 40th birthday party with friends and family, quit my job in marketing, and shout point blank in the face of a really good friend. Turns out the avatar, the mask that I'd created over 4 decades to fit in and function in society, had chosen this particular milestone in my life to malfunction publicly. You've all heard of masking, right? I was like Kim Kardashian when it came to masking. I had a mask for every outfit, for every occasion. But now, these masks were feeling tighter, more painful than usual. And although I wouldn't find out until February this year, my breakdown was a result of having worn these masks for so long to hide the symptoms of my severe attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD. And now my newly liberated brain was having absolutely none of it. It was blowtorching my mask collection and galloping at full speed towards my highly curated, nicely styled life, ready to annihilate it. And I couldn't stop staring at my donut for long enough to argue. It turns out I had completely disconnected with my entire life, with everyone and everything in it, creating in my head this version of Claire, because from magazines, from television programs, from women I'd seen in movies and inspirational quotes, because this Claire enabled me to come across like one of you. This Claire enabled me to come across and maneuver through relationships, jobs, conversations, without any of my odd traits poking through, like my oversharing about my childhood or my obsession with Michael Bolton, or bursting into tears if I smelt something that reminded me of Christmas, which is so sad and such a shame, because surely the only thing that really separates us from just being these extras in a Truman Show is those nuanced, flawed connections that we have with other people around us when we are being our true selves. Otherwise, what's the point in all this? We're just going through the motions, ticking the boxes every day until we leave a big beige legacy at the end of it all, and a whole lifetime of what ifs. Speaking of what ifs, what if I was to tell you now, in my capacity today as an ADHD consultant, there is a really, really easy way that when you walk out of here, you can do something that will stop that first generation of girls from ever donning that first mask and help the women who have been wearing them for far, far too long to remove theirs. I'm going to get back to that in a minute, unless a Taylor Swift song pops into my head, and then I'm going to forget everything. I'm just going to have a bit of water. ADHD diagnosis in women and girls is having a real moment in the media right now. And don't get me wrong, this is amazing. We've started this conversation, we're talking. But it comes with a lot of eye rolls. And apparently, it's seen as a label du jour. And apparently, it gives women like me a nice all-encompassing get-out clause for having behaved erratically and lazily for years. Whereas actually, it starts really, really young, around age 4. But unlike little boys with ADHD, we girls tend to manifest our twitching, our noises, our lack of focus really quietly. So we just fly under that radar. We use unhealthy techniques like personality plagiarism and people-pleasing. And our symptoms, as a result, go undiagnosed for years. As we grow and hormones come into play, we become like these walking pressure cookers, holding it all together so we can be good girls. But then one day, we leak, and a scalding hot rage bursts out. Perhaps we hit somebody that's standing too close to us in the process. Then everybody is looking on at us in horror. And our shame builds that first mask in response. In my 20s and 30s, my ADHD presented as chronic boredom of everything. So, focusing on lectures or work or conversations required an absurd amount of caffeine and a sharp, proactive persona to inhabit, like Ally McBeal or Michelle Obama. So I would study my role, learn my lines, dress the part, and voila, I've rebranded. But the mask always slipped. And despite the 6 espressos, my focus became blurry. I would make mistakes at work. My boss notices. I'm embarrassed. I start crying in front of everyone. I have to quit my job because of the depression. I'm in bed for 2 weeks. My kids are wondering why I can't come downstairs, why I'm always crying all the time. I can't eat. I'm losing weight. I can't sleep. I can't clean my teeth. I can't shower. Then the hyperactivity kicks in nicely, though. And I jump up because one day I see an advert for a job on LinkedIn, a chance for me to nail this interview and reinvent myself again. So I learn the lines, I study the movements, dress the part, and voila, I've rebranded. This cycle of self-control and self-flagellation is expensive, embarrassing, and exhausting to maintain. If we're lucky, we become one of the 15% of women who get a diagnosis finally. If we have supportive families and employers around us, we might get medication, we might get therapy, we might even end up on a TEDx stage. But from up here, on this hallowed red circle, it reminds me how things could have been very, very different. For the ADHD girls and women whose chronic dopamine chasing and mask wearing led them to some very unhealthy addictions and mental health issues, well, they become the statistics that you can't filter with an app. Imagine that everybody in this audience today, all 100 of you, represent the neurotypical women of the world. Is it shocking enough to know that statistically, 3 of you in your lifetime will attempt suicide? But if I give you all ADHD, that number jumps up to 23. Now let's jump back to that big what if. How can you, if you choose, help us to remove that mask and live longer, happier, healthier lives? Well, actually, it starts with your mask and yours, because it turns out we all mask, neurodivergent or not. It's a normal human response to the fear of social rejection. But if you're strapping that mask on so tightly and not letting anyone see that unfiltered version of yourself, then all they're going to do is strap theirs on tighter, and everyone around them, and so on and so on. It becomes a vicious circle. It becomes a vicious circle. Presenting a filtered version of ourselves is generally harmless. It's also generally pointless. So I believe if you could just loosen that mask a little, let a couple of those idiosyncrasies just poke out your mental health issues, discuss them, talk about them, your selective hearing, your social awkwardness, then we could start a quiet revolution of unmasked, unashamed connection together across a sort of neuroverse. I had no choice when my brain decided that day to unmask me. And I stood there, donut in hand, and realized I had sold everybody this shoddy version of myself. They'd all signed up for this sparkling Prada clutch bag, and instead, they've been saddled with a leaky, broken-handled bag for life. But the thing with bags for life is, they're just that. They're for life. They're for living. They're not just for show. They handle the big stuff, the messy stuff, and that Prada clutch is going to handle, a lip gloss at best. Everyone who's stuck with me, post-donut day, they loved me, leaks and all. Here's my family this year. We are neurodiverse. We are weird. We are wonky, and we are wonderful. Society is gradually embracing the idea of inclusivity. But instead of just including us, advocate for us and accept the changes that we need to succeed. Then we can all tread this new ground together. I promise my ADHD won't make these processes difficult, just different. So that when that undiagnosed daughter, new mum, menopausal woman, is looking around them and forming that next mask in response to what they see, what they observe makes them less compelled to wear it. They don't deserve a disappointing donut in their future. And I believe, with a few sprinkles of solidarity and a squidgy filling of empathy, that we can all enjoy the sweet, sugary taste of success in unison. That's my last donut metaphor for the day. Thank you so much for listening.